right, let's hit record and see what happens. It's time for our thoughts on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Let's rock it. Oh, well, welcome. Oh my gosh, who are you?
Hello. Mad Scientist coming to join you guys.
Oh, welcome
It's good
back.
to see you again, Brian.
Dude, likewise, man. This has been... So, first of all, I'm the Real Brian, by the way. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to talk Doctor Strange, but Mad Scientist was on the Real Brian show. It's been a while. We talk about how you kind of go in and out of the Speed Force, and...
It's been a very long time.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Speed Force, the question is, do you change into... alternate realities? Are you in the multiverse? Is this kind of the problem? Is that why we haven't talked in a while and then now you're back?
I've definitely been fighting off the various alternate universe versions of myself.
Yeah.
Which, we've been getting to a point in the last 5-10 years of pop culture where the multiverse is a really big deal.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, and speaking of that, I feel like Marvel loves to copy. It's not just me, right? That Marvel copies DC. I mean, it's kind of the big joke, right? DC comes out with the idea, and then Marvel copies it, and then kind of usually does it better. Not always, but sometimes. Most of the time.
That just about it's basically a big game of everything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome, man. I'm excited you're here. We were
thanks for having me on.
We were excited to nerd out on this because I know Captain Influence had talked about that. He's like, hey, I wouldn't mind talking about this and all, and he did on the show, but then he said, I don't really have anything else to say. So I was like, well, I know the Mad Scientist does, so welcome. But thank you for joining us. All right, here's the deal. So as always, we're going to do a quick overview of our thoughts. We're going to go into this, try to keep it as short as possible, but, give you the basic recommendation. We don't go too terribly deep. So Mad Scientist, first of all, what were your overall thoughts? What did you think?
Okay, if there's one impression that I have, it's that it's worth seeing.
Okay.
It is just as visually distinct as the original Doctor Strange. And it really follows through on a couple of plot lines from multiple different Marvel shows and movies, including the most recent Spider-Man, from WandaVision, from What if you've been watching Disney+.
Yeah.
So it's well worth the trip. If you have the time to devote to it. And when I say trip, I mean that literally, because this movie is trippy as anything.
It was an acid trip. I was thinking to myself, this is crazy. I don't know what's going on here. I feel like we're watching. I'm not even sure what we were watching half the time. I was like, that was. We weren't on drugs.
No, yeah, I have no idea what it was, but I loved looking at it.
I did too. Yeah, my overall thoughts. I enjoyed it. Same thing. It was totally worth it. It was a lot of fun. I highly recommend going and seeing it. I would give it, I guess, a solid 8 out of 10. Maybe a little bit more, but to me, it wasn't magnificent. It certainly wasn't one of the best Marvel movies ever made, but it was really good and it was enjoyable and it was fun. The story, the plot line, all that it was a little thin. Spoiler alert, by the way. Wanda's dealing with grief and she wants to live with her fake kids, but in other realities, those kids are actually real. So that's kind of that's pretty much the plot line. That's it. She just wants to get at it at all costs. And it's kind of like Spider-Man. Spider-Man wants to make sure that nobody knows his real identity at all costs. And Wanda wants to live with her, quote, real kids at all costs. There's your plot lines for both. So to me, it seems a little, okay, that's interesting. But it worked and there was a lot around it. And one thing I wanted to say, and I know you can talk about this, Mr. Mad Scientist, if you want anyway, that to me, even though the story felt thin, there is a lot to say about the idea of someone who's dealing with grief and how it manifests and how a lot of times it can be, well, like what we just saw in the movie. So any thoughts on this? I know you brought that up to me actually when we were gaming. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
No, yeah. And to me, in a lot of ways, this really is the natural conclusion to the story that started in WandaVision, where we have Wanda going through these different stages of grief. And it would seem at the end almost coming to terms with that. But it turns out that grief is just this overwhelmingly powerful thing.
Yeah.
And it felt like a very logical and almost inevitable conclusion.
Yeah, I agree.
So it really made sense to me. I usually don't really like stories where one of the historical heroes or good guys turns bad and ends up being the villain of the next story.
Yeah.
But this one just made sense.
I know. I was thinking that whole time, I'm going, no, please, no, dang it. Wanda's the bad. Oh, come on. I don't like her being the villain because I like Wanda, but it did make sense. So you're right.
Yeah, but dang, is she a good villain?
Yeah. Well,
first of all, Elizabeth Olsen acts her pants off through this entire movie.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant.
It was. And not to mention that Scarlet Witch is incredibly powerful. It is interesting how they were talking about how powerful she really was. And so then, when you see Patrick Stewart roll in, well, first of all, I heard his voice and I was like, no way. And then I saw him come in and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be amazing, So that's the alternate universe with him and everything. But how easily she was able to kill him was disappointing and shocking at the same time to me, which got me thinking, okay, Scarlet Witch is way too powerful. So then on one hand, I'm thinking, okay, it makes sense. She can just kind of, snap Xavier's neck, But what was interesting is how a 16-year-old girl is able to come in and hold her own when in one moment she can't control her power. And then, Doctor Strange is like, yes, you can. And she's like, yes, I can. You're right. I'm powerful. And then it's like she can hold her own. And I'm like, wait, so Xavier can't hold his own with Wanda, but a 16-year-old girl with no training can. Makes sense. All right. The second thing was how Doctor Strange was able to actually hold his own too. So it's like, okay, is Doctor Strange just that much more powerful than some of the other? Because when they came in with that Illuminati, and of course, by the way, John Krasinski, Reed Richards, I think we all had a bunch of moments of yeah, all right, we've got the new Fantastic Four coming, we've got Professor X, we've got Inhumans. I don't know that version of Captain Marvel. Was that a reference to anything?
So if you go back to Captain Marvel, it's her friend Monica.
Oh,
so basically this alternate version where this other pilot in the group became Captain Marvel.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was gonna say she looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. So there you go. Okay, thank you. Awesome catch, by the way. So you've got these Illuminati superheroes, and by the way, Captain Marvel is very powerful, of course. So I'm thinking you've got 4 relatively powerful, well, I guess 5 technically, but why did they get taken down so easily? So then it tells me, okay, Scarlet Witch is either just that powerful or that alternate reality is a bunch of wusses, or I don't know, whatever. But again, then it's like, okay, but the 16-year-old girl holds her own. So was it me or was that a little, what would be the word? Inconsistent?
Yeah, I think in some ways it definitely is a little bit inconsistent. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Wanda doesn't get taken out. She doesn't get beaten at the end.
True.
By getting overpowered, by getting outmagicked, by getting outpowered. She gets beaten by holding up a mirror to this grief that she's been going through and showing her what it's turned her into. And I thought that was a really effective way of doing it because she's been shown to be so overpowered throughout the course of the movie. And it gives us a chance to see her be overcome because obviously the heroes are going to win at the end, but not in a way that makes it seem cheap.
Yeah.
Pulling out some kind of trick to do it.
I agree. That to me was one of the better endings because I think, again, that thought in the beginning of the movie where I was saying, no, please don't make Wanda the villain. I wanted her to be, because the whole time, Strange is going up to her and saying, this is not what your kids would want. This is not what, Vision would want. He's trying to talk to her. He's trying to say, let's talk about this. Let's reason here. Come on. We've been on the same team together. What the heck's going on here? So the whole movie, you're kind of hoping that that's going to happen. You don't want her to be the true villain and, them kill her off or whatever. So you're right that I think it took America to be able to show Wanda, here is what it would be. We've been trying to tell you this the whole movie essentially, but now let me show you what it's like. And yeah, the grief, of course, stricken with grief. It stricks her over. I'm just going to make up words now. She is strict over. No, I would agree that to me that was actually, I don't know if everybody agreed with this one. Some people probably thought it was a bad ending, but I thought it was a really cool resolve to her villainy and allowed her to kind of say, oh, you're right. Because honestly, it is that simple sometimes when somebody is dealing with grief and they're kind of going down they're not thinking straight at all. That's what she was doing. And so no matter what you say to somebody, they just don't hear you. They have to experience. How many times, when somebody says, let me save you from the pain, and they just don't want to listen to you. And then they have to experience it for themselves in order to understand, oh, yeah, that person was right. You know what I mean? So, we've all been there. So I feel like that's exactly what happened. And so it's a very realistic outcome, which I appreciated, and also gave her a chance for redemption, which again, I appreciated that. So America Chavez.
Yeah, it's impossible to talk about this movie without talking about our new heroine, yes. America Chavez, aka Miss America, apparently.
Stargirl.
Yep. Stargirl also works. Yeah. It's able to punch star-shaped holes in the universe, which is definitely a unique and sparkly power.
The only thing she's missing is the glitter bombs, but yes. Agreed.
I think that comes in the next one when she gets her own solo film or Disney Plus series.
Okay.
Or what have you. I did think it was really interesting because she's essentially the MacGuffin of the movie where everyone's after her because she has all of these multiversal powers. But then she also kind of has her own hero's journey where she's kind of coming to terms with who she is, what she's able to do. So I thought that was kind of a unique combination for her being like the main drive of the story. And in some ways, she is just a driver of development for Stephen Strange, where he's having to kind of let go of this sense of control. And coming from the medical fields, you'll hear the joke all the time that the only difference between God and a neurosurgeon is that God doesn't think he's a neurosurgeon. So that's he nice. Is very, very much starting out in that place where he has to be in control. He has to be the one holding the knife.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, he gets a chance to kind of grow and let go of that.
Yeah, that's true. She did act as a catalyst for a lot of that, which is really cool.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Absolutely.
I will say I wanted a little more development with her. I initially liked America's character, but then I didn't feel like they went deep enough with her. Granted, it wasn't her movie. It was a Doctor Strange movie. But I kind of left feeling like she was a nice side character, but I think they were intending to make her a nice main character. But because we don't have the development with America that we have with Wanda and Stephen Strange and some of the other people that came into the show, like even Professor X, or if you watched Inhumans, or Hayley Atwell, of course I got to bring her up, man. Oh, of course, we have so much background with Hayley Atwell. So I feel like she's one of those, almost like a third wheel character that was just kind of like, oh, hey, you're new. You're part of the clique that we've known for a long time, and we don't really know you yet. That's what it felt like to me. I do hope that they give her something more and we can see more development because, her character in the comics, she's a relatively new character in general. I think I've not read the comics, but I believe it was 2011, correct me if I'm wrong, that she was introduced as a character.
Early 2010s.
Okay. And, she has a lot of different powers. So they only showed the star punch essentially and being able to travel between realities, but she's got a lot of other powers that they did not even tap into yet. So it would be interesting to see her with her own show, like you said, a Disney Plus show. I think a Disney Plus show would probably be the best option for her. Give her a 6-episode show, develop her, let's see what she's got, and bring the character to life.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like she should have more to do in the future.
I hope so. All right, so
and I hope she will.
I do too, yeah. So we've got Hayley Atwell, and by the way, she did a great job, by the way. She is, I believe, 16 in real life, I think. I think she's around, so fantastic acting, just a nice job, and excited to see where she goes. But yes, Hayley Atwell, Patrick Stewart, Anson Mount, by the way, he is Captain Pike in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. For those of you who are like, it looks familiar to me. Played Black Bolt, which unfortunately, man, quick death, short moment. But again, I never saw Inhumans, so we need to go watch that. Marvel loves to rip off DC. And so in this particular scenario, and of course this started with the last Spider-Man movie, it was a total ripoff of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And of course, they're bringing in all of the different superheroes from all of the TV shows, all of the movies even, and then they bring them all together into one show saying, hey, this is how we're going to combine, because they were all alternate universes. And they did this really, really cool, epic 4-episode crossover series. And then Marvel does it. They bring the Spider-Mans together. And now, of course, we're getting it all here in Doctor Strange. And so I just thought it was hilarious. Now, in some ways, I actually have to say DC did a better job. And in some ways, Marvel did a better job. So it's like, I can't honestly say that Marvel was far better than DC in this one, because I was a huge fan of that Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover series. I loved them. They did a really amazing job. Anyway, I just had to laugh because it's a lovely copy as usual. The soundtrack, the music was amazing. Danny Elfman, I think we Mad Scientists were both a big fan of him.
Is the freaking man.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, one of his greatest soundtracks was from the 1989 Batman. Just so good. He's done so many other things too, though. But just really good music. They did a nice job with this one, and it actually worked. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool was the music fight scene. And I know you and I both had a little conversation about this off mic. Oh my gosh, what a cool concept, a genius concept. What was going through your mind, man?
It's one of the most creative sequences I've seen in a Marvel movie recently. Like, with so many, one of my biggest complaints about the MCU is that everything by the end of the movie just devolves into this giant superpowered beings punching each other.
Yeah.
And that's your final confrontation.
Yep.
So to have a confrontation between Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange that's wielded using classical music and fighting with musical notes is just absolutely brilliant.
It was.
So I loved everything about that.
Yeah, you heard Beethoven's Fifth in there, and then you heard Bach's Toccata and Fugue, and there was something else that I wasn't entirely sure, but I mean, amazing ideas using the notes. Now, Mad Scientist, a little disappointment here, though. There is I don't know if it's a rumor, but a little bit of an investigation going on right now that Marvel copied Stephen, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his last name, Dungu, I want to say. He created a game called Sword of Symphony. It's a video game. And in that game, they were fighting with musical notes. And he is now saying, or someone is saying that, oh, Marvel copied that. So I don't know if that's true, but if they did copy that and that did come out, then we need to give pretty much the genius credit to Stephen Dungu or whoever came out with that originally. And, you know, kudos to Marvel for using it, I guess, as a a nod to him, if that's what they did. But either way, it's a really cool concept, regardless of who came up with it. And I would agree that the devolving into just over the top CGI, eye candy, superheroes punching each other kind of action does get a little old after a while. And so give me something creative. And that was a very creative moment. Definitely, if you've not seen it already, go see it. But I would love to hear your thoughts too. So if you loved the movie, let us know. If you hated the movie, let us know. If you disagree with anything we say or you love, seriously, just let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to get into the conversation in the comments below. I think it'd be amazing. Mad Scientist, thanks so much, man. And yes, you being in the medical field, I'm sure, it's a little bit of a, yes, Doctor Strange. When are you going to move from being an actual real doctor like he was, though, into the world of the magic arts?
I'm still waiting for that car accident that breaks my hands and changes my life irrevocably. There always needs to be like a major accident or industrial thing. Or some gamma radiation blast that goes off. So I'm waiting for that one. That's the only barrier as far as I can tell.
Okay. Well, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope some like magic sorcerer just comes to you and says, hey, you're amazing. Here's some powers. Go to town.
I could go with that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining me, Mad Scientist. We got to get you back on, some other episodes, but it was fun.
I'd love that.
Join us for other videos. We've got our Friday episodes coming up. We've got interviews, got product reviews. So much going on this channel. It is a little bit more of a variety of a channel, but that is the lifestyle of a nerd and a geek. So join us. But thank you for being here today.